Have you ever wondered why some cities become famous across the world while others quietly carry the weight of history without asking for recognition? There is a place on the northern coast of East Java where countless travelers pass every single day. They rush toward Bali, they chase the sunrise over Mount Bromo, they search for adventures that fill postcards and social media feeds. Yet very few ever stop to ask what stories lie beneath the streets of the city they are passing through. That city is Probolinggo. At first glance, it may seem like another coastal city in Indonesia. A busy harbour, markets filled with fresh seafood, roads connecting Java to Bali, neighbourhoods where daily life unfolds peacefully beneath the tropical sun. But appearances can be deceiving, because long before highways crossed its landscape, long before modern Indonesia even existed, this land witnessed the rise of kingdoms, the ambitions of emperors, devastating civil wars, colonial manipulation, and one extraordinary transformation that forever changed its identity. This is not simply the story of a city, it is the story of a place that has stood at the crossroads of history for more than 6 centuries. Every civilization leaves behind monuments. Some build towering castles, others leave magnificent temples. But sometimes the greatest monument is not made of stone. Sometimes it is an entire city. To understand Probolinggo, we must travel back to one of the greatest empires Southeast Asia has ever known, the Majapahit Empire. During the 14th century, Majapahit stood among the most powerful kingdoms in the world. Under the reign of King Hayam Wuruk, known formally as Sri Rajasanagara, the empire reached an extraordinary height of political influence, economic prosperity, and cultural achievement. Its influence stretched across much of the Indonesian archipelago and beyond. Merchant ships carried spices, textiles, ceramics, and precious goods across international waters, connecting Java with China, India, the Middle East, and neighboring kingdoms throughout Southeast Asia. While great capitals often dominate historical records, every empire depends upon smaller settlements that sustain its strength. One of those settlements was known as Bangka. Today, few outside Indonesia recognize that name, yet centuries ago, Bangka occupied a strategic location near the mouth of a river that emptied into the Madura Strait. Waterways were the highways of the medieval world, and rivers determined where people traded, farmed, travelled, and defended their territories. The Bangka River became the heartbeat of this growing settlement. Its fertile surroundings supported agriculture. Its river connected inland communities to the sea. Its coastal position welcomed merchants arriving from distant lands. Over time, this small settlement evolved into a more organized, administrative center, governed by an official known as an Akuwu, under the authority of the Majapahit Kingdom. Evidence of Bangka's importance survives not only through archaeology, but also through one of Indonesia's greatest literary treasures. The famous court poet Mpu Prapanca immortalized the settlement in the Nagara Kretagama, a remarkable manuscript completed in 1365. This extraordinary document described the territories, administration, and grandeur of Majapahit during its golden age. The mention of Bangka tells us something profound. This was not an anonymous village forgotten by history. It had already earned a place within one of Southeast Asia's most important historical records. Its location made it valuable, its people made it thrive, its future would make it unforgettable. As Majapahit expanded, political tensions inevitably followed. Power attracts ambition, borders invite conflict, and Bangka found itself standing directly between rival forces. To the east stood Blambangan, a kingdom determined to preserve its independence. To the west lay Majapahit, whose authority extended across much of Java. Bangka became more than a settlement, it became a frontier. History repeatedly teaches one painful lesson: borderlands rarely enjoy lasting peace. Instead, they become places where alliances shift, armies march, and ordinary people bear the consequences of struggles between rulers. That lesson would soon become reality. One of the most dramatic chapters in Javanese history unfolded here. It became known as the Paregreg War. The conflict erupted during a succession struggle within the Majapahit Empire itself. On one side stood Wickrama, who ruled from the western capital. On the other stood Bre Wirabumi, often associated with Eastern Java and Blambangan. What began as a dispute over royal legitimacy evolved into a devastating civil war that fractured one of the greatest empires Southeast Asia had ever seen. Families became divided, nobles chose opposing sides, communities found themselves trapped between rival armies. Trade slowed, trust disappeared. The unity that had once defined Majapahit began to crumble from within. And standing in the middle of this conflict was Banghir. Its strategic location transformed it into an arena where competing ambitions collided. The city was no longer merely observing history, it had become part of history. Civil wars are unlike foreign invasions. They do not simply pit one nation against another. They force brothers to fight brothers, neighbors to distrust neighbors, citizens to question where their loyalties belong. The scars they leave often last far longer than the battles themselves. Although Majapahit survived the conflict for a time, its foundations have been weakened. Internal division proved more destructive than any outside enemy could have been. Generations later, the once magnificent empire gradually declined, opening the door for new powers to emerge across Java. But history never leaves places untouched. Even after kingdoms disappear, the land remembers. The rivers continue to flow, the coastline continues to welcome ships, the people continue to build new lives upon ancient foundations. Banghir endured, it adapted, it survived the collapse of empires. Yet its greatest transformation was still waiting in the centuries ahead. A new force was approaching from across the oceans. Unlike previous kingdoms, this power did not arrive seeking only alliances or tribute. It came seeking monopolies. It came seeking wealth. It came seeking control. Its weapon was not only military strength, its greatest weapon was division. And the destiny of Banghir would soon be reshaped forever. The arrival of the Dutch East India Company, better known as the VOC, marked the beginning of an entirely different era. Unlike the great kingdoms that had ruled Java before them, the VOC was not a nation in the traditional sense. It was a corporation. Yet it possessed powers usually reserved for sovereign states. It could wage war, negotiate treaties, build fortresses, raise armies, collect taxes, and govern territories. Profit was its highest priority, and every decision was measured by one question: would it increase the company's wealth? By the middle of the 18th century, political instability had weakened many Javanese kingdoms. The once powerful Mataram Sultanate struggled with internal disputes, while European influence steadily expanded across the island. In 1743, following a treaty imposed upon Sunan Pakubuwono II of Mataram, vast territories east of Pasuruan, including Banghir, were handed over to the VOC. For the people who lived there, everything changed. Their homeland was no longer governed solely by local rulers. It had become part of an expanding colonial system designed to extract resources and strengthen Dutch commercial dominance across the Indonesian archipelago. The VOC understood something that history has repeatedly proven. Conquering land with soldiers is expensive. Conquering minds through division is far cheaper. Instead of ruling every village directly, the company often governed through local leaders, allowing traditional structures to remain while quietly influencing the decisions made at the top. It was a strategy that appeared practical. In reality, it was one of the most effective methods of colonial control ever devised. In 1746, the VOC appointed Kiai Jojolelono as the first regent of Banghir. His administrative centre was established in Kebonsari Kulon, and hopes were high that stability could finally return after decades of political uncertainty. Kiai Jojololono came from a respected family. He was the son of Kiai Buen Jolodrijo, also known as Kiem Buen, who had served as the chief minister of Pasuruan under Tumenggung Wironegoro, better known in Indonesian history as Untung Surapati. Untung Surapati was one of the fiercest opponents the Dutch had ever faced. His resistance became legendary, inspiring generations who believed that foreign domination should never define the future of their homeland. That spirit of resistance flowed through Kiai Jojololono's blood. But history has a way of placing honourable people in impossible situations. The VOC mastered the ancient strategy of setting rival groups against one another. Rather than confronting every enemy directly, they encouraged mistrust, manipulated loyalties, and allowed local conflicts to weaken resistance from within. This tactic became known throughout the region as divide and rule. It was devastatingly effective. Some historians argue that the company won as many victories through political manipulation as it did through military force. Kiai Jojololono became one of its tragic victims. Influenced by colonial pressure and misinformation, he was persuaded to pursue Panembahan Semeru, the leader of the Tengger region and a descendant of Untung Surapati, who remained firmly opposed to Dutch authority. What followed became one of the darkest moments in his life. Panembahan Semeru was ultimately killed. For the VOC, it was another obstacle removed. For Kiai Jojololono, it became a burden that would haunt his conscience. Sometimes the greatest battles are not fought with swords, they are fought within the human heart. Realizing that he had been manipulated into acting against someone who shared the same struggle against colonial domination, Kiai Jojololono experienced profound remorse. He understood that he had unknowingly strengthened the very power he had inherited every reason to oppose. It was a painful lesson. An enemy does not always defeat you by attacking from the outside. Sometimes the enemy convinces you to fight your own people. Unable to reconcile his conscience with what had happened, Kiai Jojololono made an extraordinary decision. In 1768, he abandoned his position as regent. He walked away from power. He left behind his palace. He surrendered authority that many would have spent their entire lives trying to obtain. Instead, he chose a life of wandering. In Javanese tradition, the act of lolono was more than simply traveling from one place to another. It was a journey of reflection, a search for wisdom, a path toward inner peace after profound spiritual conflict. His resignation was not an act of weakness, it was an act of accountability. History rarely celebrates those who admit their mistakes, yet sometimes the strongest leaders are those willing to sacrifice status rather than betray their conscience. After his departure, the VOC appointed a new regent. His name was Raden Tumenggung Jojonegoro, the son of the 10th regent of Surabaya. Unlike his predecessor, Jojonegoro inherited a region that was beginning to recover economically. The administrative center was relocated to Benteng Lama, where governance became more organized and infrastructure continued to develop. Under his leadership, Bangka flourished, agriculture expanded, trade became increasingly active, the population steadily grew, communities became more prosperous. Among his most enduring contributions was the establishment of the city's Jami Mosque around 1770. It became far more than a place of worship. It became the spiritual heart of the growing settlement, bringing together merchants, scholars, travelers, and ordinary families under one roof. Its presence symbolized continuity in an age of constant political change. The people admired Jojonegoro not only for his leadership, but also for his character. They affectionately called him Kanjeng Jimat, a title reflecting the immense respect and affection he earned throughout the region. Yet his most lasting decision would not involve military victories or administrative reforms. Instead, it would reshape the identity of an entire city forever. Around the year 1770, he chose to replace the name Bangor with a new name, Probolinggo. It was more than a change of words, it was the birth of a new identity. Derived from Sanskrit, Probo carries the meaning of light or radiant brilliance. Linga refers to a marker, pillar, symbol, or sacred monument. Together, the name can be understood as the pillar of light or the sign of radiance. Local tradition also connects the name to an ancient legend about a brilliant object descending from the heavens, believed by many to have been a meteor. According to the story, the place where this luminous object fell became a symbol of peace, reconciliation, and the end of conflict. Whether interpreted as history, legend, or spiritual metaphor, the meaning is remarkably powerful. After centuries marked by civil war, colonial manipulation, and political upheaval, the city embraced a name that represented hope instead of division, a light after darkness, a sign after uncertainty, a promise that even a land shaped by conflict could choose a future built upon peace. Few cities are fortunate enough to have a name that tells a story. Fewer still have a name that carries an aspiration. Probolinggo was no longer simply a location on a map. It had become an idea, an enduring reminder that even after history's deepest wounds, light can still find its way back to the earth. Names can shape identity, but geography shapes destiny. Long before satellites mapped the earth and highways connected distant cities, nature had already determined that Probolinggo would become one of the most strategically important gateways in eastern Java. Situated on the northern coastline of East Java, facing the calm waters of the Madura Strait, Probolinggo occupies a position that few cities are fortunate enough to possess. To the north lies the sea, opening maritime routes that have connected communities for centuries. To the east, south, and west stretches the fertile landscape of Probolinggo Regency, creating a natural bridge between the coast and the mountainous interior of Java. Today, the city lies roughly 100 kilometers southeast of Surabaya, Indonesia's second-largest metropolitan area. Although its land area covers only about 56 square kilometers, its influence reaches far beyond its physical boundaries. Sometimes greatness is not measured by size, it is measured by position. Probolinggo sits along the northern coastal corridor of Java, one of the island's most important transportation routes. Every day, thousands of vehicles carrying people, agricultural products, industrial goods, and commercial supplies pass through the city on their journey between Western Java and the Eastern Gateway to Bali. For many travelers, Probolinggo is simply a place they pass, but for Indonesia itself, it has long been a vital connection that keeps the nation's eastern and western regions moving together. It is here that roads, commerce, and cultures intersect. The city has quietly served as a meeting point between coastal communities, inland farmers, mountain villages, and international shipping routes for generations. This strategic location has made Probolinggo far more than a local city. It has become a crossroads where opportunities arrive, where traditions meet, where history continues to unfold. Its importance extends beyond transportation alone. The sea has always been central to the city's identity. For centuries, fishermen have ventured into the Madura Strait before sunrise, relying on knowledge passed down through generations rather than modern technology. Their lives are shaped by the rhythm of the tides, the changing seasons, and the winds that sweep across the coastline. Meanwhile, merchants have long recognized the value of Probolinggo's harbour. From the era of wooden sailing vessels to modern cargo ships, the city's coastal position has supported trade that connects East Java with other regions of Indonesia. Agricultural products from the surrounding countryside have found their way to distant markets through this gateway. Likewise, goods from across the archipelago have entered Eastern Java through the same shoreline. The relationship between land and sea has always defined Probolinggo's economy. Its fertile hinterland supports rice fields, plantations, and fruit cultivation, while its coastal waters sustain fisheries that provide livelihoods for countless families. Together, these natural advantages have allowed the city to remain resilient through changing political eras, economic transformations, and technological revolutions. Yet geography offers more than prosperity. It also creates challenges. Probolinggo experiences a tropical climate characterized by two distinct seasons. From roughly November through April, the rainy season replenishes rivers, nourishes crops, and restores the surrounding landscape with fresh life. Then, as the calendar turns toward May, the dry season gradually takes hold. Sunlight becomes more intense, the skies grow clearer, the rhythm of daily life changes once again. Average temperatures generally range from around 26 to 32 degrees Celsius, creating warm conditions throughout the year. Rainfall varies considerably between seasons, with December often bringing the heaviest downpours, while August is typically among the driest months. But perhaps one of the city's most fascinating natural phenomena is something many visitors never expect. Every year, particularly between July and September, powerful dry winds sweep across the region. Known locally as the Gending wind, these strong southeastern gusts can reach remarkable speeds, sometimes approaching 80 kilometers per hour. To outsiders, they may seem like an inconvenience. To local residents, they are part of life. Generations have learned to read these winds, just as sailors read the sea. Nature, after all, is one of history's greatest teachers. It reminds humanity that progress is never achieved by conquering the environment. It comes from understanding it. Beyond its climate and coastline, Probolinggo occupies a unique place within East Java's cultural landscape. The city belongs to a region often referred to as the Tapal Kuda, or the Horseshoe region, named for the distinctive shape formed by East Java's eastern peninsula. This area has long been known for its remarkable cultural diversity. Javanese traditions blend with Madurese influences. Languages intertwine, culinary traditions evolve, religious heritage flourishes. Communities with different backgrounds have lived alongside one another for centuries, creating an identity that cannot be reduced to a single culture. Instead, Probolinggo reflects the richness that emerges when diversity becomes strength rather than division. Perhaps that is no coincidence. After all, this is a city whose very name symbolizes peace, a place born from stories of reconciliation, a land that survived kingdoms, colonialism, conflict, and constant change without losing its sense of identity. Today, Probolinggo is home to nearly 250,000 people, making it one of the largest cities in East Java. Its neighborhoods continue to grow, its schools educate new generations, its businesses adapt to an increasingly connected world. Its streets carry both the echoes of history and the ambitions of tomorrow. Modern buildings now stand where ancient settlements once flourished. Motorcycles and trucks travel roads that were once crossed by horse caravans. Cargo vessels replace wooden trading ships. Yet beneath every layer of modern development lies the same enduring foundation, the same coastline, the same river that first nurtured a small settlement called Bangor, the same land that witnessed the rise and fall of empires. History has never truly left Probolinggo. It simply learned to live alongside the future. And perhaps that is the city's greatest lesson. Progress does not require forgetting where you came from. The strongest cities are not those that erase their past. They are the ones that carry it with pride while continuing to move forward. Because every road leading into Probolinggo is more than a route across East Java. It is an invitation to discover a place where history is not confined to museums or ancient manuscripts. It lives in the people, it breathes through the coastline, and it quietly reminds every traveler that some of the world's most extraordinary stories are hidden in the cities we almost overlook.